Hey everybody, this is the donor vehicle for the Chevelle, second Chevelle. Build another 68 Chevelle. Anyway, so I pulled this over yesterday and spent a better part of the day pulling out the cooling system and the AC system and getting the accessories off the front of the engine. Yes, that's a little mouse nest right there, but that's okay. We'll hose that off. Anyway, so got the engine compartment cleared out, got the fan off, again, the accessory, the water pump, and got it to the point where it was time to put the vehicle up and get underneath it, which I'll show in a minute. So this is a 5.3 liter small block LM7, which is going into the second Chevelle again. And I'm leaving the intake manifold on for now and the coil packs and everything. Once I'm all done underneath the vehicle, I will pull that off, attach the hook, if you will, and then pull the engine, and I'll show that as that happens. But again, the big deal was getting the space opened up so then I could put the vehicle up on the blocks here. I'm not a huge fan of jack stands if I don't have to, and since I'm not working near the wheels, it was easy enough to just put it up on those blocks. So then we go under, and I got out the part of the exhaust that was in the way. And I'll show that. Let's see. Let me climb under here while still videoing. Let's see how that works. Oh, get the loud creeper out of the way. Okay, so under here, there is the transmission pan. And okay, I'm climbing around. Let's see if this works. We'll go kind of sort of upside down. So the exhaust manifolds, one there and one there, and there was a huge Y pipe that came down under kind of around the side and back through here, and it was all in the way, and so I pulled that out, had to support the transmission and pull out this cross member here and then get the exhaust out of the way, so it was allowed me to free everything up. What I'm harvesting, as well as the transmission and the engine, is the wiring harnesses to everything, which is really the brain of the whole system, and that's where you got to be careful taking it all out and disconnecting it without destroying the stuff that you need. You can destroy about half of it, but the other half you need. So now I spent this afternoon getting bolts that are crazy impossible to get to way up in there, with long extensions and wobbly socket heads and everything. And hopefully tomorrow I will pull down the transmission and then pull the engine out in the next day or so. It really depends on the weather. Got some rain this morning, might be some more rain tomorrow, we'll see. This will be fun. This is the gear shift switch, which does things like not let the car, there we go, that's that part there, not let the car go into drive or into reverse unless your foot's on the brake. It turns on the reverse lights, all that kind of thing. The wiring harness and all the connections there are frequently epoxied in and sealed in with some kind of sealant so that moisture that splashes up doesn't damage them, but getting that apart is impossible. I may end up having to just cut wires and then resplice them later, hopefully not, but I think that's going to be the trajectory. The other fun part was pulling out the drive shaft, which is, there's the rear yoke. And yeah, so it's been a busy day, and we'll edit in some more interesting stuff, hopefully, but that's what I've been doing today. That little sucker right there is the crank position sensor, and I am to understand that in later models, GM finally got that easier to access, but that little puppy sits behind the starter motor, and I have since taken the starter motor out, which sits in that hole there with those two holes for bolts that are again gone, but the starter sits there, and that crank position sensor is part of the vital harness that I need to get to, and that all has to come out. And so that's always fun. And these lines right here are transmission line, cooling lines that go back in here up into an impossible place to get your hand. if the exhaust is in, which was another reason the exhaust came out. And those little fittings are tiny little retainer clips that are near impossible to get to, again, with the exhaust in place, and a little challenging the rest of the time. So I know them, so I was able to fish a little hook in there and pull the retainer clips, and so those lines will pop right out. If I pulled them out now, it would just drip oil all over the place. So right before I pull the transmission, I'll pull those. Let's see what else is on this side that's semi-interesting. Up above in here is the main connection for the transmission controller. This is a 4L60E, which means the computer controls it, shift points and all that, and it talks to the engine, so it's all very aligned. But getting that harness out is fun too. So more to come. Yeah. So here's a little bit of a dismantle update. Again, 5.3 liter LS basic LM7 motor. This is the passenger side with the coil packs and the exhaust manifold taken off, and about to pull the fuel rails out, and then the intake manifold, which will free up the last of the wiring harness, which I think is attached behind the intake manifold on the firewall, but we'll get rid of that. And on this side, and the green tape you see are various labels. I kind of know most of the connectors now from having done the first car, but when I strip down the wiring harness and remove all the unnecessary wires, it'll be just a little bit of a shortcut having those marked ahead of time. This side, same driver, let's see, driver side, exhaust manifold is off, coil packs are off, and wiring harness is just kind of propped in the way right now. Again, most of it is detached except for a couple of mounts on the body, and I'll show more in a minute. Okay, Chevelle fans, here's a little quick video of what the underside of the donor Tahoe looks like after you take the transmission out. That is the flex plate up there, and the big giant cavity where the 4L60E used to be. Cross member down and sitting over there on the ground. Creeper. Jack. I actually had a transmission jack angled thingy which failed, so I took the adjustment part out and scabbed it onto my existing floor jack to make this work. So I was able to bring it down and then slide it onto a dolly. But and that is the torque converter, and there is the transmission sitting on the dolly. All right, more to come. Okay, it's back on the ground, transmission's out, and the big prize is, ta-da, the wiring harness. Little silver box right there is the ECU. That is the brain of the whole car. Controls everything, decides timing, gear shifting, all sorts of fun stuff. Makes it all work, and pays attention to the current engine environment and maximum performance, and go fast. Yeah, that's it. So getting this harness out of here is a big deal. It's going to get all rebuilt. Sure, I could go buy a harness, be, I don't know, $700-800, maybe a little more. But harvesting this harness and all the connections that are already with all the engine parts is great, and we'll rebuild it and show you more later. But again, getting this thing out in one big piece, that's a win. You get it?
Yeah.
All right, LM7, 5.3 liter truck engine, donor boy, coming out. What was that?
It was a chain. You're good. It was one of the.
Oh, it was this hose.
No, it was one of the. Yeah, and it hit one of the excess chains.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're fine.
This is always the sweat and bullets time, because if something breaks,
You just
this
waste
is
it.
dropping a lot of weight, a lot of distance.
Right.
And hopefully we can get it up and over. Without having to pull anything off or having too much drama. Oh, that's a big pan. So right now we're close to getting it out this way if we have to. If it doesn't go all the way up. Oh, it makes me nervous having it that high. So I really don't know how much the engine weighs, but I believe they are about 400 pounds.
Jeez. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Shoot. I got the, there we go. Sweet. That's huge. So at the last video, we had just finished pulling the engine out, and the transmission had come out the same day. And there's the transmission. And now the work begins. Spent the last couple of days sorting and cleaning all the accessories that came off of there. And what you see here is the block heads and the crank pulley and the oil pan. And the oil pan is still filthy because it's coming off. It has to get changed to a different oil pan that will fit into the Chevelle. And everything else pretty much stays on. I've got the intake holes, ports taped off so that when I was cleaning, nothing went down in there. And that arrangement with the bracket and the chain is the hook, if you will, for lifting it up and moving it around. It's currently sitting on an engine stand, but it will get installed that way, and then the intake manifold will go on once it's in the car. And on this side, again, just pretty much cleaned up, ready to work. I'm going to pull the plugs out. Spark plugs will get replaced, of course. And transmission was filthy disgusting, and that's clean. Oh, a little update on that switch that was on the side of the transmission that the connectors would not come out of. I did some internet searching on that, and that's a common situation. So I actually just took the whole switch off, inclusive of the harness, so that I don't have to detach it or cut wires or anything, and it'll just go back on. And so if I have to change the length of that, I'll just change the length of the wires at some other location, not at the switch. So that worked out well. So that's pretty much it. The work now begins with making some of the alterations with the pan, a little bit more cleaning, and then assembly. And it'll be going into there, maybe a little lower on the ground, but that's it. All right, so thanks for watching this video. There's a lot of different sections in here, and if you like it, give me a thumbs up, subscribe. If you already have subscribed, turn on your notifications. The little bell, you want that. Oh, and there's Charlie. Hey, Charlie. What are you doing? Charlie. Oh, okay. Dead dog in the sun. He's happy. Thanks again.